Four amazing speakers. First, we have Ethelreda E.L.T. Wonkar, who is from Indonesia. Then we have Shamla Salim from Sri Lanka. We have Yashoda from Sri Lanka. And finally, we have the amazing Georgina from... Georgina, where are you from? Sorry. Georgina from UNEP. I hope that's the country. So I'd like to have 3 chairs here if possible. Yashoda and Shamla, please come ahead. So this session is going to be very engaging. We will have a lot of discussion. This is not a panel discussion. It's a discussion between all of us. Okay. No, we don't need it. Okay, yeah. So again, thank you guys for joining, and especially thank you, Georgina, for coming in the panel. It's been super helpful. Thank you. So we all have heard about human rights and environmental human rights, right? But did we really have had the opportunity to dive deep and really identify what environmental human rights is and what are the aspects, what are the dimensions of environmental human rights? We're going to do that today. And to start the conversation, I would really like to request Georgina. She has an excellent presentation to share with you guys to share that and enlighten us about environmental human rights. Thank you, Georgina. Over to you.
Okay. Hi. Good afternoon again. And hi, everyone online. Hi, Chenny. Great to see you. Okay, so this is just a general PowerPoint that we often give on human rights and the environment. So I am more than just Georgie from Australia. I am also the regional coordinator for environmental law and governance for UNEP. So I oversee the 41 countries of Asia and the Pacific, and I lead UNEP's mandate in environmental law and governance. And part of that mandate is our work on environmental rights and the links between human rights and the environment. So I'm actually just going to start with a video. I have a couple of videos in here because they explain things in a far more entertaining way. So hopefully it'll play. Okay, so this video was prepared by UNEP, UNDP, and OHCHR, or UN Human Rights, after the adoption of the human right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment was adopted by the UN General Assembly last year. So if I Yeah. Okay. So often we've heard of the UN General Assembly resolution, but the GA resolution actually followed recognition of the human right to a healthy environment in the Human Rights Council, and this took place in 2021. This council resolution followed many decades of work, understanding the close interlinkages and relationships between human rights and environment, particularly the convergence of international environmental law and international human rights law. And we know through the work of the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and the Environment, which was appointed by the Human Rights Council, that both the former Special Rapporteur and the current Special Rapporteur have further elucidated what are the elements of the right to a healthy environment. And he's come up with these elements, which are composed of both substantive elements or substantive rights and procedural elements or procedural rights. And these procedural elements also are known as access rights. They're our classical Principle 10 rights of access to information, public participation, and access to justice and remedies. And these procedural rights are like the bedrock of good governance. You cannot have good environmental governance unless you uphold these procedural rights. They enable the realization of these other substantive rights as well. And so those substantive elements are clean air, a safe climate, healthy ecosystems and biodiversity, safe and sufficient water, healthy and sustainable food, and non-toxic environment. Now, these are the elements that have been put forward by the Special Rapporteur, but they're non-exhaustive. There are a whole lot of associated rights. We can think about free, prior, and informed consent, rights of association, right? Rights of assembly, all of those sorts of rights, freedom of expression, for example, rights to manage resources in accordance with traditional customs. All of these are rights that are very closely linked to this broader family of environmental rights. So there's one thing, there's the human right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment that has been recognized universally through the General Assembly resolution. But then there is this broader bucket of environmental rights. And importantly, environmental rights include not only the human right to a healthy environment, but also the rights of the environment itself. So those are rights of nature. And we can do a whole lot of discussion over the different rights of nature. I mean, in South Asia, there's been some really important litigation and work that's been done on the rights of rivers, the same in New Zealand and other places in Latin America as well. Okay. The framework principles on human rights and the environment were put together by the former Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and the Environment. There are 16 principles, not going to go through them all. John Knox put forward these principles for states to implement their human rights in connection to the environment. And these are really fundamental because they do set out those basic obligations. Importantly, he established that most of these obligations already exist. They exist through international environmental law. As Santia was saying this morning, they exist through multilateral environmental agreements. Under, for example, the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement, within the preamble, there is a human rights-based approach. But there are also a number of other associated obligations of states. They also exist a lot in other human rights instruments through interpretation of rights to life and those sorts of things, as also meaning a right to a healthy environment. The General Assembly resolution was significant because it indicates global consensus, and it really was almost entirely global consensus. There were 161 countries that voted in favor. Not a single country voted against recognition of the right to a healthy environment. 8 countries did abstain, which means that they did not vote for, they did not vote against, but they abstained. And that is a political signal if a country abstains from a vote. And in our region, you know, it's not surprising. I don't think you can see very clearly, but the countries that abstained were Belarus, Cambodia, China, Ethiopia, Iran, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, and Syrian Arabic Republic. And all of the other countries, 161 countries voted in favor. The really key thing about this resolution is it is not legally binding. General Assembly resolutions, although they indicate global diplomatic consensus on an issue where there is such overwhelming vote for, they are not legally binding, but they act as a catalyst. They give countries another arrow in which to hold governments accountable and businesses accountable. They can also increase legal acknowledgement of the right, and they can push governments to implement the right through other legally binding means such as national legislation, constitutional provisions, litigation through courts. And of course, you've seen so much more litigation. I'm sure Chenny will talk to us about some of the litigation that ISIL is running in Indonesia. But there's so much that is being done in this space now. So these are just some of the things that recognition through the General Assembly can lead to. Okay, I also just quickly wanted to touch on environmental human rights defenders. And I have another quick video from the former Special Rapporteur of Human Rights Defenders, Michael Forst, who is now the Special Rapporteur of Environmental Human Rights Defenders under the Aarhus Convention.
Every human being is born with fundamental rights, and these include environmental rights. An environment that is safe, clean, healthy, and sustainable is the basis for all other rights and freedoms. Environmental defenders are people who use peaceful means to protect our natural resources from overexploitation and to reverse the damage caused by a profit-driven, consumerist society. For example, defenders may be members of rural communities advocating for water access, or others who fight to protect their lands from deforestation in environmentally destructive megaprojects. They also include indigenous peoples who live in harmony with nature and act as guardians of biodiversity. All around the world, a growing number of initiatives have been put in place to address climate change. Students at all levels of education have led protests to denounce the lack of government action in this matter. Because they speak truth to power, land and environmental rights defenders are the most targeted group of human rights defenders. Every year, hundreds of activists are killed, especially in places like Brazil, Mexico, the Philippines, and Colombia, where corruption and impunity fuel such attacks. To make matters worse, conflicts are becoming more and more violent as our natural resources dwindle. Instead of protecting defenders, many governments treat them like terrorists. But environmental defenders are not opposed to progress or development. On the contrary, they value the beauty of the world and are concerned for the long-term future of society. They fight to ensure that our planet is respected and protected for the health of all people. We must recognize their important role and support their cause.
Okay, so the two key takeaway facts here. Number one, 3/4 of all human rights defenders that are attacked by businesses in particular are land and environmental defenders. Overwhelming majority of human rights defenders who are attacked are now linked to environmental causes. The second thing is that environmental human rights defenders have a legitimate and a vital role. They are not anti-state, they are not anti-development, they are certainly not terrorists. And UNEP and UN agencies define an environmental human rights defender as an individual or group who in their personal or professional capacity and in a peaceful manner strive to protect and promote human rights relating to the environment, including water, air, land, flora, and fauna. So an environmental defender can be anyone. It can be groups of people, it can be women human rights defenders, anyone who is defending environmental rights, including constitutional rights to a clean, healthy environment. So they can be judges, they can be lawyers, they can be journalists, they can be farmers, they can be you and me. Anyone can be considered an environmental human rights defender if they are upholding those rights. Oh, sorry, the text here is a little bit hard to read. But again, it's just sort of emphasizing that environmental human rights defenders can be a broad range of individuals. And classically, those who we think as duty bearers So state agents, whether they be like official forest rangers and others, can also themselves be environmental defenders. We know of a large number of cases now where individuals who are seeking to protect the forest in an official capacity are also being harassed and killed for that role. Very temperamental clicker. Okay. So they, as I said, they play an important and a legitimate role. And in 2019, the UN Human Rights Council unanimously adopted a strong consensus through a Human Rights Resolution 40/11, recognizing this contribution of environmental human rights defenders. But we also know that increasingly defenders are under threat, particularly in our region. And the push for extraction of natural resources is one of the key drivers. We know through evidence from the Business and Human Rights Resource Center, from Global Witness and others, that the #1 sector behind attacks against environmental defenders is the extractive industries. #2 is agribusiness, and #3 is logging. So the other key issues here are power imbalances and exclusion, land rights issues, failure to recognize the rights of indigenous peoples to their lands, resources, and territories, as well as corruption and impunity. Impunity is a massive, massive and growing issue across the region. We have seen increasing trends of assassinations, arbitrary detention, pervasive electronic surveillance, the use of different laws now, the use of cybersecurity laws, the use of NGO laws, the use of defamation laws, the use of taxation laws. These different laws are now being used, including finance laws, other finance laws beyond tax laws, are being used to target environmental human rights defenders and create this chilling effect on civil society. Oh, sorry. This is my last 2 slides. I just wanted to plug 3 reports that we just released this year. They are available through those QR codes. Environmental Rule of Law and Human Rights in Asia Pacific. This provides a set of trends that we're seeing that are threatening environmental human rights defenders. And then following the working paper, we've released 2 briefs for summary makers. One on strategic litigation against public participation and key actionable recommendations that need to be put in place by private sector and government to address SLAPs. And the other one is on free, prior, informed consent. Again, a series of recommendations on FPIC and upholding FPIC, because they are those fundamental access rights. Yeah, those access to information, public participation. Okay, yes, that's all. Thank you.
So guys, did you guys get some very nice inputs or very nice insights? Because I did. And I'd like to thank Jenny for that, Georgina for that. Sorry. Because honestly, these are some things that we never get to learn or never get to hear from when we're in our country or we're in our normal spaces. So thank you again for sharing such amazing inputs with us. And now we'd like to go to a friend we have connected online. We have Jenny Wongker with us from Indonesia, who will be sharing her insights with us. But before that, I'd like to give a short introduction to Jenny. Jenny is an active figure of central issues related to environmental governance and climate justice. Currently, she works as a researcher on Indonesian Center for Environmental Law and as a legal analyst at Carbon Ethics. Jenny currently also serves as a member of ICUN World Commission on Environment Law and Sarakov Community under the coordination of European Parliament. Jenny, I wholeheartedly welcome to our discussion. And what I want to know from you is, like Georgina spoke, I also want to know from you that how do you see international bodies or UN instruments playing a role in ensuring meaningful participation of young environmental human rights defenders in having effective compliance or grievance mechanisms, particularly for those most impacted by the climate crisis? That was a very long question. I hope you got it.
Yeah, I got it. Can you hear me very well? Okay, yeah, thank you for inviting me in this very virtual and also important meetings. So yeah, to address your questions, I see that efforts have been made to provide a maximum avenues for the human rights defender protection in accordance with the UN's authority. And apart from that, I also see that the UN has also provided support for organization in carrying out social control, building complaint mechanism, and supporting human rights defenders. Thanks to the Georgina and all of the UN, especially the UNEP teams involved. We recognize that there have been like one, the United Nations special procedures, and second, the UNEP rapid response mechanism. Third, also the UN human rights treaty bodies. And there is also other channels such as Frontline Defenders, Environmental Justice Atlas, APNAP Support Service, and etc. for the human rights protection. However, the most important thing is to guarantee the commitment of countries to first recognize the environmental rights, both substantially and also procedurally, just like what Georgina said before. And after that, as a derivative, it is very necessary to guarantee the provision of protection to human rights defenders, guarantee the three fundamental access rights that often be neglected, which is the access to information, public participation, and also access to justice fairly to all human and also living beings, as well as implementing the environmental rule of law as the spirit of each state policy in a series of policies. Strengthening the three access rights as spirits and reference in policy formation will automatically, I think, create an impactful, meaningful participation, thereby forming an effective compliance and also grievance mechanism. Remembering that in the context of the three access rights, transparency and also accountability for information are central. Apart from that, what is no less important is the realization of climate justice principle, such as ensuring the decision on climate change are participatory, transparent, and also accountable, and then sharing benefits and burdens equitably, as well as highlighting the gender equality and also equity, recognition and also regulation regarding access rights and the realization of climate justice need to be done explicitly and stated in a legally binding instrument, such as I can think of just like the Asia Pacific Regional Agreement on that. The policies of each country also need to be placed as place a sustainable development paradigm to emphasize the socio-environmental aspect as basis for economic and also development activities to take place. These points need to be reflected in a series of statements and agreements from the UN, particularly the regional agreement regarding the human rights defender protection in the Asia Pacific, which I noticed that is currently being discussed and pushed forward. Regarding the young people participation, not only does it need to provide a forum for young people, but it also needs to ensure that young people concerned and inputs continue to be maintained and also voiced out in public discussion by the policymakers. So I think I'll just stop there for now. Let us have the discussion.
Thank you, Jenny. Now, let's hear it from our two youth rockstars, and let's get the youth perspective into the discussion. First, we have Yashoda with us. Before I go to you, sorry, let me just provide a short introduction of Yashoda to you guys. So Yashoda is a climate change consultant and a youth advocate. She has contributed herself to climate education for children, and she is more passionate in engaging, involving, and empowering children for climate action and nature conservation. She has nearly 8 years of experience as an educator and also as a student counselor and a mentor who has done multiple nature-based projects for young school children. So Yashoda, with all those experience that you hold, I want to know from a youth perspective and from a child's perspective, I wish Karthik was here, from a child's perspective, that what are environmental human rights and what fundamental rights and principles are associated with environmental human rights? Give us a fresh youth perspective.
Yeah. So, am I?
You can just come here.
Yes, I'll take the initiative reminding something very important and historical. In a historic declaration during the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, not very far, it was on in 2022, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres affirmed that access to clean air and healthy environment is a universal human right. So that was something which was very significant in our history. So it was accepted by Geneva Human Rights and also was announced globally. So as global citizens, all of us have rights to live, to breathe, right? So, so opening the floor, I would like to let you all speak about the human rights. How do you feel? What are the violations that you face? So I think we need some more innovative ideas from you. Maybe you have suggestions how these rights should be improved. Yes. So rather than sharing my ideas, I wish to have opinions from you. Yeah. Yeah. So like as youth, I feel that we are at risk always because of the pollution. Environment is not healthy. So to live, to sustain, so to survive in this planet Earth, we should protect everyone's right to breathe, to survive, to have clean air, to have food. So we need to secure these rights for each and every human being, even the other living species, not only human being. So in my point of view, while working with children for nearly 8 years, I have experienced that many governments and even the other stakeholders, they don't really focus their attention on children. So many of the children in like developing countries, they have not focused much on child education and the need of food, their nutrition. So those are the things, in my point of view, I think they should focus much attention on those important facts to secure the lives of children, their future. So children, youth, they are the future owners of the planet Earth, right? So they should be, their rights should be protected, secured. So, so I just gave a brief introduction to make it more comfortable for you to share ideas with us. So let's open the floor for everyone. What do you think? How yeah.
Hello, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And for me, as individual working on the youth, at the same time making sure that every human rights is secured and protected, is that in our end in the Philippines, we see to it that if we are working the same time amending all the laws at the same time, the discrepancies that our government is having, is that we see they see it as against to them. So that is why we are being red tagged. So I really appreciate your words that are really your words that we are on risk. So this is sort of a manifestation that we need more laws and ordinances in order for us to protect the rights and to secure the lives of every human being, especially the youth and children. Because now we must focus on the actions or the advocacies that we're having because the government are seeing it as against them.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing the idea. So like we discussed in the morning that we all have a right to know, to get the information from the government. Like when we were discussing about the harmful chemicals, we discussed that we have a right to know, we have a right to get information about harmful chemicals and all. So like that, we can encourage our governments to have good policies to secure the rights. So yes, we'll go ahead.
Thank you, Yashoda, for opening the floor and taking the conversation. From you, I'd like to directly go to Shamla with the point Yashoda mentioned, that we need to push our governments to make the policies more friendly and make the policies in a way that young people are ensured of their environmental human rights. So what I want to know from Shamla is, how can youth ensure their perspectives and demands to contribute to decision-making processes in such regional forums like what we're doing here in APYEF, and also to some extent at UNIA 6? And what are the potential challenges for youth engagement in our environmental policies? Yes.
Thank you, Parag. Actually, in one question, you made 3 questions. Well, to talk about ensuring perspective and demands, how the youth can contribute in these decision-making processes, I'd say active involvement and engagement. And as responsible advocates and ambassadors that we sit here, it's important that we bring in our societies, our grassroots levels voices also heard here in the decision-making process. So since the opportunities are not being given to all the youths in the country or all the youths around the world, it's important whatever the discussions taken or whatever the challenges being faced in the community will have to be addressed in these kind of forums with a very strong voice and being able to confidently address the decision makers and question them in a way to rethink whether are they on the right track. Adding to the challenges and opportunities for youth engagement, I would say participation is also a challenge and also an opportunity, because not everybody is being given the opportunity to share the space, to share their voices. Because most of the time, the youth participations are like really limited in very high level political forums, since it's like 1 or 2 people only being given with a very limitation time to present their views and thoughts. So it's one of the challenge. And also when we talk about the opportunities, I would also say the participation is also an opportunity to bring the perspective of the community that we work on to the table or the space, at least with that limited time period, to pitch out our strong recommendations or thoughts and views for them to rethink. So just giving that a glimpse, I just wanted to, as it was already informed earlier, this is going to be an interactive forum. I would like to open the forum to the participants here, asking the question, how well do you see this place as privileged, as ambassadors to present your views as youth? I mean, your views in the sense, youth's view of your nation here. So how well do you think that this space is really facilitating? And then I'll come up with my further perspective. I just like to open this question for everybody here. Mark.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, Shamala. I think this space is very inaccessible to a lot of young people. It's not exactly representative, but then that's also difficult because, as you mentioned, information for how to engage isn't as big. It's not a huge campaign. Resources are limited.
Okay, I can speak. Okay, so as Tiara also mentioned, this is a good platform. At least we came here and we are discussing something and we coming up with solutions and, different strategies. And obviously, these are the ideas. When we go back, we can, work more on that, or we get some, good opportunities and we can discuss and, get more maybe funding or something like that. And we do something. So these forums are very much important that youth, those youth who want to participate, who want to get engaged and involved. They are discussing those issues on behalf of youth, for youth, and obviously they are, coming up with some solutions. So this is a good thing, I think.
Is there there's another one person online.
Thank you so much. For me, on my end, as a representative of indigenous people here in the community, the same time part of those marginalized sector, this is a good platform in order for us to be heard. At the same time, somehow could help our sectors in amplifying the voices of those individuals that are not unheard in the community. And at the same time, as representative, I'm bringing the voices, I'm bringing the experiences, and I bring the stories of the different sectors in the community. Where in fact, as an environmental advocate and activist, we need to amplify those concerns because we are being suppressed and our rights are being neglected by the government and the society because they think that we are not doing something for the good of the community, but we are against the government. And we are here to change or to make sure that everyone is educated on what we are doing on the grassroots level and protecting the lives of the environmental advocate and activists, and at the same time, the marginalized sectors.
Thank you everyone for your inputs and perspective. Just to finally sum up the answers for the questions which was already like we discussed. I would also say, wanted to make sure that ensuring that our youth participation is being really meaningful in these spaces is also takeaways that we get from here to our nation. So it's important that we follow up all the good practices, whatever that we learned here, and all the decisions that we thought of that we will have to put into place to have a global level acting to be done to see the sustainability. We'll have to take it forward with the involvement in our own nation, collaboratively trying to reach out to the responsible governments or authorities and trying to work with them along together. Meanwhile, not forgetting to equip the youth already they are in the ground with whatever the learnings that we took from here and whatever the process that we have planned out to work together in the nation, so that there is also another way of ensuring that whatever that we have, what we wanted to bring here to this space as the decisions is also, there is a work behind done in our own country, some kind of a background work we could say, to make that policy implemented in our nations. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shamla. I thought we could have another round of questioning, but unfortunately we are out of time. 45 minutes is never enough to discuss about human rights and environmental human rights. So at this moment, I'd like to call upon my friend and dear colleague, Ann, to share some closing remarks and thank everyone, because I have thanked everyone a lot of times these days. Ann, please come and thank everyone.
Can I ask one question?
Yes,
For
please
5
go
minutes.
ahead.
This is for Venice, I think. You need from? Okay. My question is, environmental human rights is purchasable? We can sell or buy? So that environmental human rights we can sell or buy. We can, right? Right. Yeah. So my question is, why developed countries trying to buy from developing countries? So why developed countries try to buy from developing countries? We are working for the environmental rights, human rights, but the developed countries try to buy from ourselves. You can get it, right?
Okay, so I think I understand. We're talking about exploitation and violations of
Yes.
human rights. Yeah. So a lot of these rights are based on fundamental human rights, every person has these rights. These rights are indivisible and they belong to every person. But you can only exercise those rights insofar that they do not violate the rights of someone else. So for example, you cannot, you have a right to food. Everyone has a right to food, but you do not have a right to go and take food from everyone else because you cannot violate the rights of other people. But violations of environmental rights occur in every country. And often it's in relation to power imbalances, like we were talking about, impunity, failure to uphold rule of law, and a lack of compliance and enforcement with the law. Those often are some of the key causes of violations of environmental rights. Now, those power imbalances and also injustices happen also between countries, because you have some countries that are more powerful than other countries, and you do get increased numbers of violations of rights where there are countries that have a reduced rule of law, more impunity, a failure to have strong compliance, then you're more likely to get violations of those rights. But you also have intergenerational injustices as well as geographical injustices as well. And you see that with climate justice. So I think your question of like, why is there more violations between developed countries and less developed countries, right? And often it is those root causes that are at stake. You know, it is because of power imbalances. It is because of often powerful business interests that do not have sufficient due diligence in their supply chains. So you end up having more labor rights abuses and child rights abuses and those sorts of things. Yeah, I hope that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So before I start my closing, I'd like to take this opportunity to express my concern the recent convictions and sentencing of Hoàng Minh Hùng, which is a very good friend of mine from Vietnam. She's recently, 2 days ago, been sentenced to 3 years of prison and a fine of $250,000 for her act working in an NGO working for the environment and promoting youth participations in environment and climate change. It is this one is being recorded, so I hope I'm still fine after this. I want to start with this because human rights defenders are being attacked. It's fine. Yeah.
Children in ASEAN, just like children across the world, have the right to grow up in a healthy environment. To do this, they need to learn what the right to a healthy environment means.
So you see, guys, just like adults, our parents, our teachers, government officials, we young people have the right to a healthy environment too. So what do you think a healthy environment is?
Nice beaches, clean rivers, fresh air.
These are good ideas. A healthy environment means a safe climate for everyone and every living thing, clean water to drink and clean air to breathe, healthy food to eat and clean places to live, study and play, and being sure that we use the resources we have today in ways that do not harm children and adults in the future.
Children have other rights too. They have the rights to have a safe place to live, to learn about the environment in school, to get information they can understand about the environment, and to have a say about decisions that affect the environment and affect children too. Governments all around the world have made a promise that these rights of children will be protected. Children and young people across ASEAN are demanding their right to live in a healthy environment. United Nations agencies worked with children and adults in ASEAN to come up with 9 principles for children's right to a healthy environment.
Now, tell everyone what these principles are.
healthy environment where we live and grow and play.
Child participation. People listen to what we think about a healthy environment.
Child-friendly information. We know and can understand what is happening to our environment.
Environmental education. We learn how to look after the environment where we live, in our country and around the world. Play. We can play safely outdoors in unpolluted places.
Protection from climate change and damage to the environment. We are protected from pollution, changing climate and weather, and loss of animals and plants.
Ending harmful business activities. We are protected from all the kinds of harm that business activities can cause.
Making help available. We have the support we need when someone does not respect our right to a healthy environment. Protection from violence. We have the protection we need when we demand our rights to a healthy environment. Very good, everyone. These are every child's rights, wherever we live.
Governments, businesses, communities, and the media can all contribute to improving the environment and informing children about their right to a healthy environment. But real and lasting change will come from involving children in making decisions that affect the environment. Children need to know that their opinions matter and can have an impact. Adults need to listen.
Okay, everyone. Can you tell me some ways you think you could find out more about your right to a healthy environment and how to protect it?
Learning from books, videos, the internet, and school. Talking to friends about our right to healthy environment. Using social media to tell people what we can do to protect our right to a healthy environment. Doing things that are fun and that protect the environment too.
Great answers. Let's go home and talk to our parents about our right to a healthy environment and especially tell them that we need safe, clean places to play outdoors. You can join clubs and groups like this one here at school and in our community and even around the world. Here are some groups that are working with children to protect their right to a healthy environment. Now, who's ready to protect our right to live in a healthy environment?
Okay, class, who would like to do problem 3 on the board?
Please don't be me. Please don't be me.
I know, Miss Einstein. Let's give someone else a try, Ralphie. How about you, Sophia?
Although we have like this session we are not having books, but all the session we have like this is they have created a PDF for their next, but it's good one. Thank you. I can share it. Yes. And from it was there. It walked all the way to the back. Yep. There's a normal kid. Very normal in Indonesia. There's a region called Papua. Well, basically, these are Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea is another one. It's in the Pacific. It's right about Australia. Papua New Guinea is connecting countries and 11.
Okay, because the lid was over here. Like, no, maybe just speak into the mic and tell the people online that we're redoing the room or something.
Hello. So we will be starting the technical session shortly. And yeah, it's going to be very interactive. And you could also raise your hands if you have any questions or any important facts you would like to share with us and the group today. Thank you.
We'll just start shortly with just setting up the room. So online participants, just stay with us. You don't have to leave. We'll be back here. You can have this. Yeah, it does. Okay. Is this mic working? Are people hearing me in the back? It's not. I guess not. You can just use this.
Yeah. So can everybody hear me? Hello. Hello. Okay. It's food. So, yeah. So today's topic is food security. And let's start it. Let's have a good session. I come forward a bit more. Yeah. I see attention on, right? Hello. Please, can you
So you guys can come forward. There are seats here. So that we are going to do an interactive session. You can join, like we can have some good time.
Hello, guys. So, yeah. Hello. And yeah. So, yeah, I have the audacity to believe that people everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education, and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear colleagues. I am Ravindranath Anjana. I am 18 years old, and I'm the founder and CEO of a startup named Cute Filla. So basically, I'm an animal activist, and I'm really, really passionate about wildlife protection. So generally speaking, me and Yasumi is going to conduct the session today, but we both are not the only speakers. We are going to have 20 speakers online, and we are going to have about 60 speakers in this room today. Not 2 speakers, so that's about 80 speakers today. So let's have a good time and let's learn something new about food security. So as quoted by Martin Luther King Jr., we too should believe that people everywhere should have the adequate ability to have control over their food supply. So in order to give you a brief introduction, brief knowledge on what food security is and the current trends of food security in our surroundings, I would like to just go ahead with this session. Please enjoy, please coordinate, because I'm fully assured that you guys are more knowledgeable than me as a on the steps of food security, because I'm so into animal care. So I think you guys are just marvelous in the area. So yeah, over to Yasim.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So as Ramdi mentioned, we are going to talk about food security today. Moving forward, I'm Yasumi Vikramsinghe from Sri Lanka. So I'm working as a lead business analyst for a US company at the moment. And I'm the chairperson for Global Network Partnership Net Program. And also working as a researcher, a speaker at MKI, where we are working on AI-based projects to give solutions for the climate change. That's the most interesting part I'm working on at this moment. So as Ravindra told, like I'm also not into this food, but we will be focusing on food today, food security. So millions of children are facing a big challenge in getting the proper nutritious food at this moment. So they don't have the proper education, like children, students, they don't have that education. They can't afford that education. Some of the countries like Sri Lanka, we have faced that at this moment also we are facing that. So there are rural areas they can't reach, like they don't see nutritious meals at all. So that's that kind of pathetic situation we are facing. And this is something critical we need to address. We need to find solutions, and we need to avoid food waste as well, so that in a way we can give opportunity for these children to get nutritious food. So let me move on to understanding what food concept is. So it includes 4 key pillars, that is availability, access, utilization, and stability. So all these 4 pillars need to be fulfilled to get the nutritious food to the children. So this is an immense challenge, as I told. So I would like to like if the audience can join me and tell what kind of knowledge your schools are giving, what kind of facilities the school children or the preschools from your preschools they are getting. So I'd like to ask from the audience online or the physical appearing here. So in some, I know that in Sri Lanka, we don't afford the food for the school children and all, but there are some countries they are from the school, preschool in time, they are getting that opportunity. So can few of you come up with the current status of your countries? Okay.
This is working. Yeah. So I think I can give a context of India, but I mean, India is too large. So I can give the context of where I come from, which is called Tamil Nadu. So again, education system is private and public. The government runs schools. In government run schools, you have something called the midday meal scheme. So every child, until they finish schooling, gets their lunch given by the school. If you want to take it, it's not compulsory, but there's always lunch if you want to come. They recently, which is not even a month ago, they actually started giving breakfast to children until 5th standard, which would be around 8 or 10 years, I think. So now there's breakfast and lunch. And then for kids that are pre-primary, right? Like we also have something called Anganwadis. I can't really find, maybe like a childcare that runs. So there's always breakfast, lunch, and evening food that's given to those children because their mothers can go actually work. So that's also there. Yeah, then there's preschooling that also breakfast, lunch, and sort of something after is there. But yeah, that's pretty much it on the scenario of food and school systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any one of you? You raised up. Okay. Can give them. Yeah, there are.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. We do get midday meals in India. But the thing is that it is not enough that you're getting it. It matters if it is nutrition is there or not. So we have been doing many research and we find out that, the midday meals that children are getting, there are many times that the midday meals have, sometimes insects in it. And it is not healthy for them, being honest. And the thing is that if you're getting it, you should not be fortunate about it because it's your right. You should be getting it. But does not mean you're getting it and you did not have nutrition in it. That does not make any sense, right? Just to cover the data and show the figures that India is giving food to children is something which does not make any sense to me, basically, because I am also from India. And the one thing that you mentioned that people in Sri Lanka, they are not getting food and, the nutrition and they are not getting proper education. So I think it is 2023. And if in this scenario, when we have in India, we have, everything that's happening technically, we have smart boards. Now we do not have these whiteboards, everything we are studying from smart boards. We have government schools that have been developed a lot. That's correct. But I would really like to ask you that, because you mentioned that children still do not have an access to education. That something makes me feel very sad. So what you have done at least a bit to cover that,
Yeah.
what you have done to make that possible that they can at least go or they can at least get something. Something does not mean, okay, giving a a plate of rice or something that would matter. But and here people who are having food, I would request you not to waste that because then doesn't make any sense. We are here working for the climate and we are still wasting food. So yes, I would just like to, know about what you have guys done because in India we do have food. At least we have, many NGOs working for children. But again, India has a big buildings, but what is happening behind those buildings, nobody knows. So yes, we are on the same path, but I would say that we are getting at least a bit.
Yeah, thank you. So, okay, there's another hand. Let me ask you a question after that. Okay.
So again, in terms of midday meal, I agree that it is not appropriate enough. But again, I'm from India. Then when I started my schooling, I was supposed to go to school due to midday meal because we were getting something to eat at that point of time. But at current scenario, when I visited government schools because it is only available to run by government. So it's good enough now. Sanjay mentioned about Anganwadi system. So I guess it is well organized system in India. Implementation is something other part which there's a lot of complication, but Anganwadi system is something we deal with like a child is born and have to requirement in terms of nutrition and food. So it is a mechanism they have adopted and created. where it is something like child care center, where they take care of like play groups and food and everything required as per the need of child. So we have good things, but implementation is something which is yet to be worked upon. And things are going better and better. We have community kitchens where food are being prepared and supplied to not only children but to the youth, adult and person in need. So we have such things in India and get to work on the implementation. It was like one policy. Thank you.
Thank you. So there are some online participants who are raised hand. You can speak.
Hi everyone. This is me. Actually, I have a question at first. Where are we now at right now? Like we have the session of food security or was it is? I want to clear at first and then I can answer your question.
Yeah, this is food security.
Food security session. You and regarding your answer, I'm from Nepal. I'm Vidya Pandey and hello everyone. And Nepal is a developing country and some of the region of the Nepal is highly developed and some of them are still being developed. And in high margin regions of the Nepal, people are facing lack of food. However, in the certain Tarai region of Nepal, I'm from the Tilutama, and in our municipality, the municipality itself allocates some sort of the fund for the children's meal in the government school. So in some region of the Nepal, they are being provided food to secure the food security. Along with it, to make high enrollment of the children in the school in favor of providing the food. So both the SDG goals are being implemented. However, in the high hills of the Nepal, the problem of the food security is still being running, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other online participants? Okay. So let me answer that. Okay, you can.
In the Pacific Islands, particularly food security is a bit of an issue because in Samoa, for example, we're highly reliant on food from overseas that's processed and packaged, which also contributes to climate change because of the carbon emissions, as well as plastic pollution because all that food comes in packaging. But in Samoa, there is a push amongst the government to promote healthy eating and eating food that's locally sourced. So yes.
Okay. So answering the questions you raised. So in Sri Lanka also, as I told, there are many non-profitable organizations trying to help the schools, trying to help the children, like the from the kids. So like that. So we basically, including me, we have volunteering organizations. So there are some schools we are helping, like we prepare food monthly. We go to those schools and give them. And actually, based on those things, I started initiating setting up libraries last year. So far, during my free time, I have completed around 9 libraries, including 3 computer labs to very rural areas in Sri Lanka, where those schools are like giving that library facility to the villagers as well. So some of the after who have done their levels and like some of them who have completed only all levels. So after that, they are higher schools for the higher school education also, like they are getting that knowledge from those libraries. So when I went, like I'm going with group of people. So when I first started initiating the library process, a few of my friends joined, and so the computer lab setup came. And then tech, we had a group of friends. So then we started doing tech sessions. So those who are close to those rural areas, they voluntarily coordinated and they voluntarily came up raising that, okay, they will be doing that. So then the villagers on those places, So I'm talking about the very rural areas where they don't even have the network connectivity because they are in the schools are in the jungles, like the elephants are coming after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that kind of place. Vehicles can't go. We also had to go in tractors in some areas like that, very hard routes. So they are when we go for those library setups and all, we spend some time talking to the villagers. So we can't handle, like I personally was working on this library thing, so I can't handle the other things. What they came up, the first thing it came up is if there's a way they can have some nutritious food for these kids, because they are eating from what they are cultivating. There were some villages, like they are in the top of the mountains in Sri Lanka, I can namely say also. So they cultivate sufficient food for them and they eat those things. They don't care about the nutrition side. They want something to get rid of their hunger, get rid of their children's hunger and all those things. They need to they need to spend the days with what they have. So those villages, they have that they are sharing the things, like the close villages, they are sharing the things, and they are going to the town like once a month. So what they're telling is like they don't have the electricity, they don't have the telephones, they even we can't reach them. If we want to take call, like we are giving them the numbers and like that. So those places we need to have, like we also we are telling that okay, we will connect with you with these people, like some of the people they need, but there's no proper platform where we can request. There are many non-profitable organizations including UN and all, but they are doing something, but there are still places we need to address this issue, because food and education is like primary needs. We need like with proper food, having that proper knowledge, and even there are very bright people, but they don't have the resources. They can't have the access to the resources, because at this time, at this moment, we need that proper education, proper resource allocation and utilization, because there are some places we have like resources overloaded. So if we can reallocate and delocate them to the other areas where it is like essential, we can do a lot of things. So I'll be giving Ravindu for the next information about the food security. We are going over to you.
So basically, all the issues regarding food security will always lead to one of these 4 problems. So yeah, let's make it a fun session. So yeah, hello. So what's your name?
I'm Lilan.
So do you really get refreshed or anything when you have food?
It depends with the situation. Actually, if I'm like, let's say, if I'm very famished, so I might enjoy it. If not, just a food. That's it.
Okay, so basically it refreshes our whole body, and as humans, it plays a key role in our day-to-day practices. So basically, one topic is covered: health and well-being. Malnutrition is the leading cause of preventable death in children under the age of 5. And as developing nations in the Asia-Pacific region, we should be concerned about this, accounting for 45% of all the deaths in this age group. Another issue. So, sir, what's your kind name?
Muhammad Rafiz.
So, when you consume food, do you feel more energetic? Do you feel like you can work more?
Yeah, it depends on the food. Usually, my background is farming, paddy field area. My childhood, I was in the farming side. So if I had rice and curry, some things, that definitely it will be energetic food for myself.
So basically, I was just lucky to get that answer. So every 1% increase in agricultural productivity leads to a 0.4 increase in GDP. This is from basically from the Asia Pacific countries, and it actually really influences countries who are in debt loss. So as Sri Lanka, we are getting debt financing from many other foreign organizations. And as agriculture having a deep influence on our GDP, we should be really aware of that situation. So yeah, let me just go. Hello, so what's your name?
I'm Darshalini.
Okay, so when you go about 6 or 7 hours of not consuming food, do you get angry?
Yes, really.
Okay, so when you get angry, you possibly is socially unrest, right? So basically about a year ago, we had the Aragale. So in Sri Lanka, which is basically which is basically targeting inflation. So let me just share a short personal story I had. When I was the captain of my debate team like 3 months ago, and the topic I brought up was an egg is 35 rupees, like 3 years ago. An egg is 35 rupees. And in front of an audience of about 2,500, everybody laughed because it was all primary kids. And 2 years later, now an egg is about 55 rupees and 60 rupees. And we should be really aware of that. So basically, it simply facts about it. Over 40% of all civil wars in the past 60 years have been linked to food insecurity. Food riots have occurred in over 70 countries in the current past 10 years. So in the final topic, which is a sustainable future, agriculture is responsible for 25% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Food insecurity is a major driver of deforestation and land degradation. So basically, which food security is a niche topic, right? But when we just go to it, when we do certain research on it, it influences all the other topics, which is connected to today's Asia Pacific Forum. So moving on. In order to solve this, in 2022, at the 5th session in 2022, UNIA adopted a number of resolutions. Number of resolutions. Many resolutions, but I'll just briefly go on 3, which directly influences food insecurity. The first one is sustainable nitrogen management. So there has been growth since our last session, since the last UNIA session, which is this because this resolution recognized the importance of nitrogen for food production, but also the negative environmental impacts of excessive nitrogen use and call for a reduction of nitrogen waste by 50% by 2030. The UNEP working group on nitrogen has met twice to discuss and develop a roadmap for implementation. The working group has also established an ad hoc task team to examine possible terms of reference for an interconvention nitrogen coordination mechanism. There had been more activities done in order to solve food security. But as we are going on, we'll actually talk deep into this topic, whether they were actually good or not. So in another resolution, there was another resolution which were nature-based solutions for supporting sustainable development. Basically, since the resolution, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations launched the One Planet Sustainable Food Systems Program, which includes a number of NBS initiatives. The World Bank has also launched the Forest Smart Agricultural Program, which supports the implementation of NBS in agricultural landscapes. The final resolution, which directly influences today's topic, would be biodiversity and health. It called for countries to take action to protect and conserve biodiversity. So since that resolution, FAO has launched the One Health platform, whilst also WHO has also launched the WHO Global Biodiversity and Health Framework, which provides a roadmap for action on biodiversity and health. So these resolutions are important earlier. Now we are at 2030. So it is basically, we are basically at the midpoint of the agenda for 2030 in sustainability. So let's just, what are the policies we should be implementing for the UNIA 6? Not direct policies, but what policies would you personally want to be included in the UNIA 6 forum in Kenya? So any hands up? Any hands? So, yeah.
So I would like to suggest considering primary ecosystem services there. So which is the oxygen production and clean water cycle into the atmosphere by planting trees. So most of the time people are like stuck in a rut with carbon, which is the photosynthesis process at their side. But very few people are focusing on the primary ecosystem services. So it would be great actually if we can focus on that too.
Yeah. So basically, UNIA 6 could adopt policies to support the transition to sustainable food systems, such as policies to promote sustainable agriculture, reduce food waste, and improve access to healthy food. So another policy would be to promote equity and social justice in food systems. So basically, we had the session right before this session, which was regarding human rights and environmental rights. So food systems should be equitable and just, meaning that everyone should have access to food they need to live a healthy life. UNIA 6 could adopt policies to promote equity and social justice in food systems, such as policies to reduce poverty and inequality. Food security plays a key role in poverty. So when we are not, if we consider ourselves as someone who is not working, so basically we are a child. So the first problem we might have is we need water and we need food. Those are the two basics we need. Education, we could call it as important, but in order to be alive, we need food and water. So food security should be promoted as a social justice in food systems. So moving on. Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ravindra. So let's move on to how youth can improve this food security. So I would like to open up the session over to you guys to give your suggestions how we as the youth can improve this food security. Based on your country's experiences, you can actually come up with the suggestions you have.
Actually, I was going to add Dennis' suggestion to the previous one, but yeah, since we move on, we can move on.
Okay, anyone?
Yes. So Sri Lanka context, so 2019, I think the government banned the inorganic fertilizers. So that's immediate change. Our farmers felt the very bad experience for immediate change to the organic fertilizers. So we need to the time to change our land utilization also. So we need to time to take organic fertilizer that must, but we had experience, the immediate change can be the fulfill our life and farmers income also. So that's one thing. So we want to change the fertilizer to the organic fertilizer, but within the 5 or 6 years times. And also we want to encourage the local product, because the food is within 10 companies in worldwide. So they are the decision makers for what we want to eat. So we want to change the system. We want to encourage the local community and also the household doing their food in their circles. They are small circles within the village, within the households. So they want to make their food security. That is the sustainable way, I think.
adding to his point, actually, like even before getting into organic fertilizers, the lands have been already degraded by using inorganic substances. So it might take at least, as he even mentioned, like more than 6 years. But by portion, they have to transition into organic agriculture in a way. If it is possible, that would be really great. But I think the farmers need to understand how to transition their soil into like a living soil once again, without getting out of it. Just putting organic fertilizers is not going to be a proper solution.
Yeah, so we can say like we have to promote sustainable agriculture. So for that, we need to give a better proper education background details to the farmers, as well as you told, we can't take it in 1 or 2 weeks and get into that. So everyone who are cultivating will be in trouble. Some others, okay.
Yeah, as I explained that I'm background is farming culture, like Eastern province. So I know the very well fact about what he mentioned, the organic sudden changes, how it could affect in my area. So suddenly that fertilizers all increased to triple time, and we are unable to get the access for the fertilizers. So that is affected on the yield product. Now the case is, as he mentioned, the price. It's an important factor for the selecting the nutrition food. For example, the farm as a farmers, they producing the product with the all the climate effect and the price of the fertilizer and all. The end of the product price is what do you call this? Defined by the certain level of people in global wise as well as Sri Lanka as well. But you see that the egg price he quoted 35 rupees in the other country people, you could not imagine, he mentioned the rupees, but frankly say honestly say that price is triple time. 20 rupees egg price goes up to 65, sometimes not available, but it's one of the nutrition food. But that food price cost demand and control by the certain level of people, they could have done that and they reached that level of prices. But the farmers who were working the bottom level, but that people sacrifice a lot price wise, climate challenges and all, water scarcity, but they could not make the price certain level, but certain people control the price. So that supply chain should be regulated by their relevant authority. They ensure the price control, supply, everything, all the access for equality basis. If not, certain level of people get some nutrition food, but some people cannot access for that. So it is my point of view, which I had in during last 2 years our economic crisis time.
Yeah, so I agree with that. Actually, in Sri Lanka, we are facing that the farmers are getting a low income and intermediate parties are making the profit out of that. And as customers, we are paying a big amount. Okay, you can, yeah. There were two. Okay, one of you can. Yes.
So these things we cannot get on the plan. And I guess everyone could strongly and we love the domain. Time you really get a different if you have more leadership. You have this. So start with what we have to explain changing because we need to because people don't know something. And I guess that the food prices are it is expensive, but if we reduce tax that we are paying extra, and if we, give opportunities to people for work, work and pay them extra, and give them good jobs, they buy this but I would just like to convey the message of saying that I know food security and inflation is going to change, and that's the reason we all are here. Because the time have done in here talking about these topics and these rules, but if you have more, let's share. And going back to your countries, do not wait for these rules to be implemented. If you think that you are extra, rather than wasting it, rather than imagine somebody who really thinking, okay, because we don't go about the future, right? So yes, let's look at everybody else and go back to your countries, people looks like you are doing, and you really appreciate what they're doing in classes and training under their life, and that really matters a lot. So go back to your countries and create small groups and let's teach others, and because I guess we are fortunate that they can smooth the visuals like that. So why not just share? Yeah, with their experience.
Yeah, I would like to ask about the strategies from the other countries as well. Some of the participants. Okay.
This one.
Yeah, this is working. Okay. So in the Indian context, let's say maybe 30, 40, 50 years back, if you go back, we were also a country that did not have enough rice supplies to give our own population, right? We had to import a lot of food, including rice and wheat. We were not self-sufficient with both of them. And we had huge famines. We were just becoming independent countries. We were still trying to, feed so many people. But today we are the largest exporter of rice, one of the largest, right? Now, how did this happen? There's obviously, it comes with lots of criticisms of what has happened, but largely is known as something called the Green Revolution. It started with saying that we need to be self-sufficient in just the staple foods, at least, not the other ones, but at least the staple foods. That this means wheat and rice. One of the major policies was that the prices of food, especially on rice and wheat, is always regulated. Black marketing and hoarding is not allowed. That is the second thing. Third is that there's public procurement, which is that the government buys it. Again, I'm not saying these are the best things that has happened. These are the things that has led to it. Obviously, there are criticisms on that. So there's public procurement. So there's always government that buys the stock and then gives it to people on certain rates. And then in most cases, there's public distribution that's free of cost as well, depending on the economic status that you come from. That is the third scenario. Fourth is also we ended up investing heavily on research to identify crops that would give you more yield. That was the fourth. But then the fifth, which is again more critically, if you look at it, it's still something we're trying to go back, is that we ended up going into more of the fertilizers, which is how we actually did end up getting the self-sufficiency. Right now that we've become self-sufficient and then we're exporting it. Now we're trying to go back and see how can we become more naturally trying to produce them. And that has now that shift has led to sort of saying, let's go back to finding resilient crops that have been there. For example, we've had 200 to 300 variety of just rice. Rice would grow on water, rice would go on lakes, rice would grow on rainy seasons, rice would grow on everything. Right now, the crop systems, the seeds of rice, specifically than the ones that we keep using, are not resilient. Now, that is the thing that we need to focus on the coming years, because whatever's happening with climate change, every single country in Asia right now, especially Southeast Asia, there's no country with no rice price inflation. It's everywhere. Now, so the focus now is sort of moving, not just to say we're moving away from fertilizers, but also identifying crops that can actually be resilient in the coming weather patterns. I guess that's pretty much on what I wanted to sum up. Yeah.
Thank you. Some others? Okay, you can.
I would like to find out the traditional knowledge practices. I'm not so familiar with that part, but I think as Asian, we all here most of us are Asians, I think. So we have this cultural background from our ancient time that which is really like very sustainable kind of culture we have, and also we have these practices. Basically, my mother is one of the most sustainable people that I know because she doesn't waste like anything, not a single thing that she. We never waste food, but we make it in house. And also that there are practices like we can grow things in our homes and all. So these kind of things that we can push as Asians, because we know that we have this the advantage of the
of the environment, and we have the advantage of the weather conditions. So that's something that I want to push. I want to point out that, and also the traditional and indigenous practices. I think even Philippines, even Nepal, even India, everyone is having. I'm from Sri Lanka, and so we have this that we can really push and kind of can, if we can take this up and also can adapt with the new technologies, that would be really nice.
Yeah, so something immediately we can start is this reduce the waste actually, and giving it to, like, we can have that food distributed to the others. You can talk.
Hi, my name is Anh from Vietnam. So we're also famous as a rice exporter. But one thing that I know, that's the world is turning 8 billion people, and from my own experience, people eat a lot. So how can we address that food securities when people number of populations is rising, people are eating more? We cannot keep cutting forest to have more land for agriculture. So I think one thing that's I am working with a lot of young people in my region in Southeast Asia is, and also the question is what young people can do, right? Yeah. So I think one thing young people is very famous of is being innovative, and we are tech savvy. So I think investing in technologies and innovations for young people could be a way for us. For example, in my regions, many startups, many young startups are working on IoT, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, drone-based technologies, and other things on agriculture. For example, they use drones to help farmers to monitor their crops, and also use AI to help farmers to plan their seasons, and also using information technologies and AI to help to reduce food waste in transportations. You monitor the time from the farm to the shops, and then reduce the time to transport. So those could be the way to help us to reduce food waste, increase food productions and yields, and also helping farmers to increase their livelihood. So investing more on helping young people working on technologies, innovations, helping them with funds, and also we have to invest in policies and legislations that support those innovations. Thank you.
Yeah, adding to his point, actually, as a precision agriculture solutionist, I must agree with those points. And actually, like a lot of people are like, talking about food wastage when it comes to food security, but very few people are talking about crop wastage, because like a lot of people are like they have to eat regardless of whatever the field that they are in. But crop wastage is a bit familiar, like it can be seen by the maybe farmers, or maybe like some sort of a party that who is working with farmers. So not everyone can see like crop wastage, but a lot of people can see food wastage. So actually, like we need to focus on crop wastage because it is way more significant than food wastage actually. So the United Nations actually have to like make priorities to crop wastage, because there are a lot of pest diseases are coming, and then again using AI, machine learnings and all, we can mitigate those things. And adding to his point, like actually we can also create blockchain related solutions to give the information to end consumer to, because food security is not only about food and agriculture, it is all about like health, like providing healthy foods for the end consumer too. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, so we had a very quick session, but here there's a good brilliant mindsets who came up with solutions. So that means actually for this food security thing, we need to involve the youth in decision making stages, like in each country. Like some of the countries, they don't feel this is as a major problem, but countries like Asian countries, most of the Asian countries are facing this. So empowering youth and getting them involved in decision making will enhance and will be a good solution to overcome these problems, because they are always with the digital trends, they are know the technologies, they are always searching for the better solutions. As you told, like we are looking for the healthy nutritious food. Also they can come up with the best suggestions to overcome these issues we are currently facing. And there are some things we can immediately start, like stop wasting the food and all, while we need some time to go for the sustainable agricultural methods and all. So I will hand over to Ravindu to conclude this with giving some other summarized details. Over to you, Ravindu.
Okay, so for the sum up, we have 12 minutes to kill. So if anyone has any ideas they could talk about, yeah.
Hi. Not an idea, but we'd like to take an opportunity and share an opportunity for everyone working on food system and wanted to work on further. Beside my constituency, who I love a lot, I also work with the World Food Forum and recently have collaborated with FAO Regional Office. So I remember a very old poem just now when you mentioned the two basic need on food and water. So there was a very early stage poet in India. His name was Harinandan Nath Chattopadhyay. So it's a homework for you also when you go back to your home, to your hostel or wherever you are living, to read this poem. I will read the first 3 lines and then rest is a homework for you. So the world is full of paddy and the world is full of wheat. The world is full of paddy and the world is full of wheat. And then still there are hundreds of who don't have the food. Come on, all things are so expensive because of war and strife. So this poem was written back 30 years ago, but still the condition is same. More than 500 mineral peoples are undernourished in Asia itself, not Pacific, in Asia itself. So one of the opportunity I would like to share with you. Currently, we are working on a healthy nutrition diet. Our constituency, recently Children and Youth Major Group, is also partnering with World Food Forum to showcase implementing how the food nexus and the Union 6 implementing the policies can come together to improve the betterments of the world and the healthy global system. So the opportunity is that currently we are working on a healthy nutrition diet in context of youth, in context of Asia Pacific. So if further of you wanted to share your experience, share your knowledge and some of the formulating actionable solution with us. So I would love to welcome your suggestions and try to make it into the upcoming draft, which will be shared at the FAO next month office. So yeah, that was an opportunity basically to share.
Yeah, I just want to add a small point actually. So on 27th, there was a youth statement given to the all agriculture ministries related to FAO. I was there. Actually, I was today morning. I came from Italy from FAO. So actually, like even here, when it comes to food security, a lot of people are talking about plant-based foods, but like very few people are a bit reluctant to talk about livestock. So we need to focus on sustainable livestock development as well, because there is a myth or there is a little bit of a manipulation that without not having understanding about the natural carbon cycle and the fossil or anthropogenic carbon cycle, some people are like villainizing livestock sector. So it has been actually impacted negatively to livestock sector. So youth is not attracted to that. So that livestock sector has been declined. So we need to focus on that thing too. We have been a bit missed that part during session. This one I'll let you know. That's all.
Sorry, I think following up on that, I wanted to mention about how we should also focus on reducing our prioritization to animal agriculture, because that's also something that releases a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, as well as degradation of forests, land resources, and water. All of these are depleting because we are trying to sustain ourselves through a middleman, basically. But at the end of the day, we need more land, we need more water, we need all of that in order to protect the future generations. But if we teach the future generations to prioritize just to exploit from another animal and to sustain ourselves, I think that's the wrong kind of message to the future. And we should encourage each other to respect each other, and at the same time find nutritions in the most like how the indigenous methods did, or how the previous generations did, because previously it's not as though that people did die from malnutrition, but at the same time now we have adaptations, now we have all kinds of technologies to adapt to these. So I think that's also it's time to adapt our mindsets towards animal agriculture. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a raised hand in the online session too. So yeah, the raised hand in, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Again, being agriculturist, I want to share something too. I think if I'm not wrong, previously the speaker was Vikrant. He had already talked about the wonderful opportunity about the healthy food system and healthy diet. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and if it is possible, please tell a name and then a bit of some sort of summary. We can't see it online, so who is speaking? So like I'm there, and then you can just speak. It will be easy for us to some kind of suggestion. And I will also like to share some of the opportunity. If any of the group want to work more on the agriculture, then we have a young agriculture team also. We work mainly on, now we are working on the global youth statement too. And so anybody who want to share their perspective on agroecology and who want to contribute on the workshop section of agroecology, then you can feel free to join there too, and we can discuss more about the healthy food system and food security issues. And I have listened so many food security issues in various regions of the world through Sri Lanka and through India, and it will be very helpful to get the insight of all the country in the position paper of in the youth statement which will be presented in the COP conference. So that will be very helpful. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So in order to conclude our session today, throughout our discussions, we came to this conclusion. So basically, food security is not just about producing enough food to feed everyone. It is also about ensuring that everyone has access to food they need and when they need it. This means addressing the root causes of food insecurity, such as poverty, inequality, and conflict. It also means investing in sustainable agricultural practices and reducing food waste. But most importantly, it means working together to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to live a healthy and fulfilling life. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
It's a tea break now.
Okay, so for the online,
Just a 15 minutes break. And then we are coming back to here only.
for online,
A round session in this moderated group discussion. Okay, next slides. So for the first question, I will address to Brenda. So I want to ask, like, what were the outcomes, if you may share, of the previous two INCs? Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting us today to be part of your session and to learn from you. It's important because from our perspective, it's very important to hear from stakeholders, from our community, what's important to you so that we can help ensure that your voices are included in the INC process. So I am a senior program management officer with the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee Secretariat, and we are involved with convening the meetings and ensuring the meetings are set up in a way that are inclusive and engaging for our participants so that we actually can meet the UNEA resolution of ensuring that an instrument is developed by the end of 2024. Which is a very, very demanding request, of course, since we only received that mandate last March 2022. So where are we at so far? The first session of the INC was hosted in Uruguay last November, and the second session was held in May in Paris. And I don't know, I think some of you were participating in that session, and many of you were probably represented in some way at the session. I would say those first two meetings were focused on a lot of procedural aspects in order to get the draft rules of procedure agreed to operate the meeting within, and also to get a bureau lined up to be represented and to guide us as a secretariat as we prepare for these meetings. So those are two really important procedural steps that happened. But INC2 was the first time where options were on the table that were discussed for the elements of the future instrument. And those options were developed based on the inputs received at the INC itself, at the first INC, but also from the submissions that were received between the two sessions, okay? So that was a paper that was put together by the INC Secretariat. We received input and then developed these options. And now, of course, what has happened is following those discussions, the chair of the INC, Ambassador Meza Kudra, was asked to develop the zero draft of the instrument. So the first time that text has been put together for consideration of the future instrument, collecting all of the inputs received from INC1 and INC2 and building, of course, on the options paper that was developed for INC2. So this is a pretty important milestone where we are actually at the first set of negotiations for the instrument and an important milestone in moving forward. Ambassador Meza Kudra has put together a thoughtful and comprehensive piece and a helpful starting point in the negotiations at the session in Nairobi. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda, for sharing what will be the follow-up from the previous two INC session. So now we're going also to discuss a bit, following up to that. So it's more like what youth can do, or maybe starting from what would be the loopholes that would be hindering the efforts and actions towards tackling the plastic pollution. So maybe I will start asking question to Tiara. So what do you think, and what are some key issues that specifically relating to Asia Pacific in terms of plastics pollution? Thank you.
Thank you, Hafi. Hello, everyone. I'm Tiara. I'm the Movement Building Associate of Break Free from Plastic. I work specifically with the youth network of BFFP. Two things I want to highlight for Asia Pacific. Number one are sachets, and number two is the waste trade. I also mentioned the sachets in our working group earlier. Sachets are single-use multi-layer packaging that's being distributed in developing countries, usually in single-use sizes. So this is often marketed as a pro-poor manner of distribution so that lower income communities can access the products or premium products. However, it's also these communities that don't have the infrastructure to manage all this waste. Multi-layer packaging is very difficult to recycle. It's actually impossible to recycle, and waste pickers in the Philippines don't even collect them because they're of no value. We don't know commonly how plastic specifically is recycled. It's a very intricate process of separating types of plastic by color. You have to clean it and you have to process it, and it only gets recycled a maximum of 2 times, right? So in a way, we're only procrastinating a linear process and not really reaching circularity in this way. Number 2 as well is the waste trade. Hafi mentioned earlier that Southeast Asia is often mentioned as a top polluter of the oceans in rankings, but we don't take into account that a lot of richer nations also ship their unrecyclable waste to developing countries. And I believe this is also in the options paper and was also already included in the Basel Convention. Plastic was recently included. This is very important, a very important insight, because it just shows that even developed countries can't manage the full scale of their waste. And it just shows how much there is a discrepancy with the recycling that's being promoted by industry. So yeah, anyone?
Thank you, Tiara. So if I may highlight, I actually agree with Tiara. So it's like Southeast Asia, especially in the Asia Pacific region, was most polluted countries that contribute to the more plastic pollution. So we need to actually adopt more circular approaches in moving forwards. So the life cycle of the plastic was not only end after we use it at the first time. So I think it's like I want to ask our speaker online, which is Kamala. So Kamala, how does if you may share, how does plastic disproportionately affect women? Okay, as a woman yourself, right? So how does this affect a woman? And also, if you may share also from men, from coming from man perspective, how it may affect it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Also, hello to everyone in the audience and also online. I'm Kamala Ernest, also with the United Nations Environment Program, managing a regional plastic pollution project called Sea Circular. And the project focuses mainly on market-based solutions, strengthening science for decision-making, awareness raising, and networking. And the approach we take for this project is a circular economy for plastics, as well as a rights-based approach. So coming to your question, we believe that plastic pollution is a human rights crisis and has negative impact to human well-being in general, regardless of gender. However, vulnerable communities, particularly women, children, coastal communities, and the poor urban, the informal waste workers, and other marginalized groups bear the disproportionate impacts of pollution. So we can look at it in 2 angles. One is on the health impact and the other one is on the economic impact. So when it comes to how it impacts differently for women, because of biological differences, chemicals in plastic may affect the vulnerability of women's reproductive system, and also links to health impacts due to fertility and hormone-related risk. In jobs like waste collection and at recycling factories, which are often labor intensive, are often also with poor hygiene and safety standards which are below par, adding to the risk of exposure to air pollution and sanitation issues that have also health impacts. Another area is that plastic waste pollutes the water bodies and the marine life, and access to clean water and also exposure to contaminated food supply. All these have long-term impact on health. And when it comes to economic loss, of course, the coastal community, for example, who are dependent on fishing and tourism, may have lost their livelihood or jobs and may be forced to undertake jobs in the industrial sector, which would, in this case, sometimes be related to plastics industry, and that could then further expose them to chemical and also other environmental threats. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Kamala. So I really like how you highlight those plastic pollution would highly affected the coastal community, because we, especially someone who living in urban areas, don't really like somehow neglect this impacts, right? So it's something, it's like moving forward, we need to take action with. So since we talk about the gender-based and from gender perspective, I will also like to ask Nini Aluni. So Aluni, can you share your experience on how from gender perspective, so those can make impacts like solution impacts to tackle plastics pollutions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Happy. Regarding on gender, in terms of the roles of each gender towards solving plastic issues, I'd like to talk on a more community-based perspective. So one major difference I see in women is that they are usually the household buyer. So they would be the one who would purchase things into each household, meaning that they have the power to choose, which affects the matter of changing the behavior. So if women, especially mothers, were more knowledgeable about the issue, I do think that women have a key role to play here as a consumer. However, if we're looking at a more organizational structure, structuring companies, we mostly, this is nothing on traditional or cultural perspective, but from the community I grew up in, we mostly have men as managers and people who sign off the last approval for everything. So again, if these people who have positions, who do have the power to choose, I say it's also a good thing to target them as a partner for making changes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nini, for wonderful sharing. So I think I need to ask our next speaker, Malisha. So Malisha, coming from Sri Lanka yourself, right? So can you somehow like share what would be the policies from Sri Lanka or even in the Asia Pacific region that have been proven effective and should be included in the plastic treaty? Thank you.
Thank you, Hafi. And hi, everyone. I'm Alisha from the Pearl Protectors. We are a youth-led, volunteer-based marine conservation group in Sri Lanka. So coming from an advocacy perspective, I could say that Sri Lanka is on the right track towards tackling plastic pollution. We have gone ahead with not just policies, but legally binding bans on single-use plastics before. And just today, we got another 7 types of single-use plastic items banned. It's effective from today. So yes. Yes. But with all that positive news, there has been lessons to be learned as well. So adding to what Tiara mentioned about earlier, the sachet menace, which is something that we we experience as Asia Pacific countries. Sri Lanka has been dealing with the same issue for many years. And in 2021, we finally decided to put an end to it and we banned sachets. So the tricky part is we banned sachets that were less than 20 milliliters or milligrams. And, you know, we were happy, we celebrated it. But then some companies did not want to embrace this ban. It was well received by the community, but companies like Unilever, they tried to sidestep the ban. So what they did was they would sell 6 milliliter sachets and sort of sidestep the ban entirely. So this was of course dealt with well with the Ministry of Environment, and they did stop producing those sachets altogether. But a lesson that we sort of learned is even though companies like Unilever might advocate publicly against sachets by saying that they're evil and because they cannot be recycled and that they need to be banned, they privately lobby towards stopping these bans that are being proposed in developing countries like ours, because they promote it as a poor man's commodity, which is not the case, because we did conduct surveys within coastal communities who were very much affected by the vast amount of pollution on the coastline. And they did say that they would save money now from buying the bottle instead of the sachets. So I think a lesson from my country's policies and laws that can be perhaps taken into the plastics treaty is maybe keeping polluting corporates, the giant polluting corporates, out of the conversations that we're having about the plastic treaty itself. Because if they influence it, we will not stop the production. We will just keep recycling, which really isn't the solution to tackling the plastic crisis. Thank you, and over to you.
All right, thank you, Malisha. So I do agree with somehow the solution in how to reduce the plastic pollution, especially among local communities. So it's something that we can learn in moving forwards from Sri Lanka. So the next question, we also need to ask maybe Tiara and also from Nini online, what will be the scalable solution that have been modeled by communities in your region? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Hafi. So when we talk about solutions, the first thing I will always say is zero waste. And zero waste is a very intimidating phrase, but it has been done by a few cities in the Philippines, and they've reached almost 80% of waste diversion, which is a very, very big thing. And it saves them more money, and it saves them, yeah, like it really just saved the city a lot of money in terms of managing waste, and it also keeps the city cleaner. So that's my short answer. I have resources for zero waste cities in case any of you are interested.
If you may share with the Philippines adopting this.
Okay. Our city that's I think this is the model city is San Fernando in Pampanga in the Philippines. And we also have several cities getting there, like Dumaguete and Malabon. Yes.
Thank you, Tiara. Maybe Nini, you want to add on? Yeah. You're on mute.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So some scalable solutions that have been ongoing from recent years, actually, because we were only introduced to the term circular economy not long ago. But coming from a youth organization and a space where I can see youth's contribution on the issue, I see that they are becoming more innovative in finding the solutions in not just reducing the plastic usage, but also seeing it happen and polluting their cities and transforming those waste into becoming more valuable products. So I've seen youths turning plastic into fabric, bags, blocks for construction, like to build houses, and even turning plastic into materials that can make the road that we travel on every day. So these initiatives not just inspire, but it also reflects that youth can actually become involved in these social problems, and that it's, we're not just dumping everything on government's responsibility. And some of those projects or initiatives actually become social businesses or green businesses. Adding on to Tiara's answer for zero waste, apart from having zero waste cities, there are also a lot of zero waste communities in a lot of countries. And as much as I want to, I would highly say that in many countries there are zero waste communities in each city, but as of where I'm coming from, there's only one in the capital city. So if we can have more of those projects as well and support for them, then I think it's something really scalable, because knowing the founder myself, she actually took those the zero waste projects or the zero waste community as her permanent job, and having it as her mission every day, just to create zero waste for this small community with a lot of impact by involving volunteering and funding from organizations, especially from international sectors.
All right, thank you, Nini. So these are scalable measures that has been highlighted. It's like what I like about it is how in the Philippines they adopt the zero waste policies, especially in certain cities, and also coming from the Lao PDR strategies in moving towards how to tackle the plastic pollution. So I think we move to the next round, which is I want to know, maybe the audience also want to know about what would be like youth perspective in moving towards a legally binding instrument. The instrument here is like INC. So what would be the role that youth can play to tackle plastic pollution? Maybe I will start with Malisha. So Malisha, if I can ask you two questions directly. So the first one, what would be like what are some realities that are being faced by youth nowadays as a result of plastic production and pollution? So this is, if you may also like relate to what would be the expectation or demands coming from youth for these policies called INC. So more like expectation, and also what are the realities that is facing now by youth? Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm happy to see so many of us here interested about talking about solutions to what is really a global issue. And since I'm from Sri Lanka, I would like to sort of highlight a really terrible disaster that affected not just the young people, the entire country. And this was when the MV Express Pearl disaster happened in our legal waters, spilling 75 billion nurdles into our waters. And if you don't know what nurdles are, these are plastic pellets that are 5 millimeters or less in size. These are microplastics, the building blocks of all types of plastics out there. So the ship came into our legal waters, and it had an accident and it broke down and spilled all these nurdles into our waters that are, even after 2 years, that are still washing up and polluting our beaches. This was a new type of pollution on our beaches before. Most Sri Lankans did not know what plastic pellets are before this disaster. And so to this day, the Pearl Protectors, we got together, we mobilized thousands of volunteers, and we conducted cleanups every week, but we are not able to contain the spill. And this is bound to become a regional issue, and it already has, because this has sort of, the currents have taken it to India, Maldives, Indonesia. So these are the realities that we face, especially countries like ours, who are not equipped to tackle disasters like this. We did not know what nurdles are, and now we had to tackle the whole nurdle spill, and we did not have the equipment to do that. So that's where it's important to stop the production, or at least limit it or regulate it, so that we don't have to tackle with the pollution aspect. And we all know that microplastics are now, not just affecting the marine environment. It's also affecting us. We are no longer immune to the threats of it. We breathe it, we drink it, we eat it. And you all know that we ingest 5 grams of microplastics every week, which is equivalent to the size of a credit card. So, and the latest research shows that microplastics have been found in our brains, in infants, in the womb. Even the unborn children are affected by a threat that they did not create. So really coming from the youth perspective, it's sort of the intergenerational commitments that we need to push forward this idea of, stopping production rather than just recycling the waste, which really only benefits the polluting corporations and not developing countries like ours, and also the youth as well.
Maybe Nini, if you want to add on, like what will be your expectation as a youth to tackle this plastic pollution and how it can enhance the policies across Asia Pacific?
I can't really say on behalf of all the youth across APAC, but because each country has have various depths of each specific issue and their enforcement of policies. But what I commonly see from recent exchanges and doing policy recommendations is that youth they really urge to see their recommendations be taken seriously. So what I really hope to see is that the authority leaders and youth can come to the middle ground and work together with policies that are researched, written, and recommended by youth. So we have so many programs that are on policy recommendation, and if we can somehow strengthen the outputs of the program and strengthen the collaboration within relevant parties to have it certified that this research is true and the recommendation makes sense and is practical. I do believe that it will somewhere along the line meet the standards so that those recommendations are ready to be considered and ready to be implemented. So in short, I would say they're becoming more aware that public policy is a way of empowering their actions, because in the past years they've been doing projects and they come to a certain point where they're stuck at the scaling process. They make some impact and then they have trouble scaling up due to some policies or authorities that can facilitate or empower their impact more. So youth are more and more aware of policy recommendations, and I think they are preparing themselves to take their involvement into this space.
All right, thank you, Nini. So I also want to ask Kamala. Okay, so Kamala, if you may share your experience from C-Circular and UNEP, so what would be like how we maybe as a public, especially on how we want to bridging the gaps in order for publics know the layman terms, because policies somehow need a comprehensive reading and understanding. So maybe like how we want to strengthen the policy implementation part of it in order for public also can contribute to the implementation process. All right.
Sorry, I'm muted.
All right.
Yes, thank you. I think it's important, a very interesting discussions and feedback from the panelists. What's important is, I think, any policies that are being introduced or being implemented, it would require a participatory approach, bringing together all the different interest groups. We cannot actually eliminate or discard anyone because they would then work their way around the policy or not, because we need to have proper consultation. And this, in this regard, I think youth representation and the voices of the youth are critical, and also we need to empower them. Educational programs are key, as well as awareness raising campaigns for sensitization on single-use plastics, its ban, and also empowering the public with alternatives, knowledge on alternatives, and also behavioral change is key to also addressing the problem, and this needs to be part of the policy engagement as well. In terms of also, I would like to say that when we look at policy, it should be also a holistic approach, because of the scale of the issue is huge. The plastic pollution is a huge problem, and one single policy cannot alone solve all the problems. So we need a systemic change that involves a transition to a new plastics economy. And this transition is very much based on a circular economy. What is interesting is the Global Plastic Treaty is addressing plastic waste, ending plastic pollution, and not because plastic will be present in our economy. And so what we are looking at is to ensure that products are designed that they will last long and eliminate waste from the environment or the economy as much as possible, and also avoid the use of plastics through reuse and recycling. So this needs a whole systems change, and it also involves the participation of all key players along the plastic value chain, including consumers and also different civil society groups, to collectively provide inputs to this Global Plastic Treaty. So in all, we need to look at these policies as not to address an environmental threat, but also opportunities for job creation, to be innovation, opportunities for new markets, and also a better livelihood for everyone, including those vulnerable groups that I had mentioned earlier on, to have also a better and sustainable income generation for them as part of looking for the solution.
Okay, thank you, Kamala. So if I may highlight, so we cannot working in silos, especially in eliminating and reducing plastic pollution. So we need a whole community to maybe start practicing circular approaches, especially in terms of reducing plastic pollution. Yeah, so let's move on to the last round, would be the policy-based question. I want to ask Brenda. So Brenda, for your opinion, maybe if you can share how young people and maybe children's and member states can effectively working together to be able to ensure a more inclusive participation, especially from observers like all of attendees today's youth and children. Ending to you.
Great, thank you very much. So modeling shows if we are in a status quo scenario, that plastic production will triple by 2060, right? So this is 37 years away, and this is really your future and the future of children. So I think that's clear, and a very strong sort of figure to be looking at as we work ahead here. So you are the future, and ensuring your voices are heard in the INC process is really, really important. So sessions like this are important. Summarize them, get your key strategic messages on the table and bring them to the INC process, bring them to your national focal points in the government, and make sure your messages are strategic and heard. We also have a set of side events at INC3 that are built upon INC 2 side events. Watch that space, get involved in the events, it's important, and be coordinated, send your inputs when they're asked. There have been these submission processes, they're super important. I think member states are picking up on them in their submissions, and I think they're very important. secondly, I would just say stakeholder engagement is an element in the zero draft itself. So I think that's also an important space. And that's an important place in terms of the process of stakeholder involvement in the process, but also how are stakeholders going to be involved in the implementation aspects of the future instrument and in innovation in the future plastics space or packaging space, or however you wish to say that. So I think there's spaces there for you to be involved. And I think I hear a lot of promise here just in terms of what people are asking for. So as consumers, demand more, continue to demand more, make sure your voices are heard with governments, but also with the private sector, with companies, because I think they will be listening to your voices. So, you know, use that involvement, stay involved, and get involved and stay involved. Thanks.
Thank you, Brenda. So I think we have come to the end of our panel discussion for today. So I would like to thank all of the speakers joining physically and also online for sharing your thoughts and insights on how we want to shape our sustainable future and in tackling global plastic pollution. So before we end our session today, I would like to call upon my colleague Ramu to continue with the closing remarks. Thank you.
So thank you so much. Hello everyone. Greetings to speakers, delegates, fellow youth advocates, and esteemed guests over here. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be in front of you today. As we conclude this crucial session, the plastic treaty we want, incorporating full life cycle approach. Over the past few minutes, we have engaged in meaningful dialogue on delivering different suggestions and different approaches that we have made in our regional level and also in the global level for sure. And we have also encountered the complexity of this paramount issue that it has been affecting not just our generation, but the future generation to come. We have set with different specific objective for this session, and I'm pretty much happy to say that we have accomplished our specific objective throughout this meaningful dialogue today. So our first objective was to assess the negotiation outcomes. We have examined the development of the negotiation for the plastic treaty so far and analyzed the proposed solutions and concerns brought by member states and the stakeholders in the INC 1 and INC 2. Through these discussions, we have gained a deeper understanding of the challenges and opportunities that lies ahead. And engaging with meaningfully the engagement in the INC, the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee for Plastic Pollution Process, it is an asset for the effort that member state and the stakeholder are taking in this for the INC process and all that. Secondly, we seek to conscientize the regional effort. The Asia-Pacific region plays a pivotal role in fighting against plastic pollution. By sharing our regional experience, we have fostered a sense of unity and purpose, realizing that our collective strength is the key to address the global crisis effectively for the plastic pollution. And I am happy to know that Sri Lanka is effectively working on addressing the plastic pollution through various research-based initiatives and also engaging the youth at local level. It was great to put our hands on the vital information on how plastic pollution hampers the health of people and other living creatures in the earth, and also the importance of circular economy. So our third objective was to amplify the Asia-Pacific youth demands for the importance and inclusion in the emerging instruments. I am heartened by the passion and conviction showed by everyone for the contribution to shaping the INC treaty for the plastic pollution. Last but most importantly, we stress the essential need for action and global cooperation, because without the global cooperation and without joining hand, I don't think we can solve this bigger issue at every level. And now as we conclude this session, I urge each one of us to carry the spirit of this discussion forward. Let our deliberation here today serve as a catalyst for change. Our demands, our aspirations, and our unwavering commitment to the sustainable future can be the driving force behind the change we wish to see. In closing, let me express my gratitude to all the speakers over here, the panelists over here, the participants over here, and all the ground support team, and also the UN agencies that have been like extremely supporting us for delivering these sessions. Thank you so much.
Can I have a question? Can I have a question?
Okay, yeah, maybe like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, okay.
So sometime answer from INC. So there is a report said, as you said, ASEAN has most polluted plastic polluters according to the report. But in 2020, so national level meeting, there is I think Sri Lanka is fifth most polluted plastic polluters. So first in China, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, and Sri Lanka. In 2020 national level meeting, the government said there's a number mistake. We are not in the fifth place. So who are the people? We are the polluters. Said we are the polluters. Asians are the plastic polluters who are said. That's one thing. And second is the polluters are there, like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Nestle. Their products, their products are the most polluted, the plastic pollution. That's the reality. So I asked the INC, your third INC 3 or other countries, you have any initiative for who are doing that pollution? This is my question.
Maybe if you want to address to which speakers?
Yes.
Who?
No, next one. Yeah.
Sure. The INC process itself is a very focused process, right, on developing an international instrument for plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. So this is a governmental driven process, right? So the member states are the ones that are negotiating the instrument. They are, aiming, on a science-driven process, backed by science. INC1 had a document on plastics science, in terms of documentation that's a basis for developing the instrument. And those that are involved from an observer perspective in the room have to be accredited stakeholders to be part of the process. And that follows ECOSOC and UN processes to be in the room. So really it is in the members' hands, which are the governments that are negotiating the process, that are the ones having the conversations and making the decisions in the process. And UNEP itself hosts the secretary that convenes the meetings and manages the registration process for those to be part of the meetings themselves. So the governments drive the agenda, and the chair of the process is a governmental person, and that's how the process works in terms of how the negotiations and the space is driven. Yeah.
Maybe another question? Yes, Zohair.
More like a remark than question. So I'm the one. Luckily, I'm the one who has attended all the INC sessions so far. Not just that, the preparatory meeting in Senegal, and then maybe when the resolution took birth before that. So I got some information about what people are thinking and how the process is ongoing. So first of all, obviously we discussed a lot of things today, and I appreciate a lot of thoughts has been presented by our speakers, panelists who are joining online and in person. But I think the most important part that we need to focus on for the future plastic city, that also UNEP ED, our Inger Anderson has already mentioned, that we cannot recycle out of the mess that we created, which is very important. And we really need to focus on the elimination of hazardous and single-use plastics, which is somehow getting less attention, I would say, in the plastics negotiation, because I think I can make comments on different things that maybe the secretariat people and other people, they cannot do. But one thing that we're seeing, there are a lot of delay tactics are being played. There are a lot of confusions are going on. But I think from the civil society part, from the youth side, we really need to stand strong to push what we want from the future treaty, because once it's adopted, we cannot change it. We have seen what happened to the Paris Agreement. It's completely been on the nationally determined contributions, right? So there, that's even not that legally binding. That's kind of a voluntary thing. We don't want the same thing happen to the plastics treaty. We are pushing for it. So I will share one information that what young people did for the INC process, that we collaborated and we created a global youth coalition on plastic pollution. For the INC process, it's member state who decided not to have a constituency model engagement in the process that we have for UNIA, maybe for the UNIA proposed CBD, where major groups or the constituencies are have a role to play. It's all individual observers. That somehow limited the participation or the capacity of some vulnerable stakeholders who are not maybe that's organized, like young people. We don't have the resource to organize ourselves, or the women, the indigenous people, they don't have the resource. So that made our participation very difficult. But what we young people did, we collaborated with the other youth platforms from all the participation category. We made the coalition, we worked with the secretariat, and now we have a youth flag. We are the only observer to have a youth flag, to have our own flag in the negotiation room. All other observers are sitting behind the generics and observer. That means we have a recognition in the process. Member states are supporting, secretary are supporting. It's now our responsibility, because the future, whatever is decided today or tomorrow in the plastic city will affect our future. So whatever here, who are discussing, who are knowing this about the process today, I'll request them to know about the process, to know about the science behind it. You have all the resources, and then come to INC. Even sometimes you don't need to go there. Work with the youth platforms who are working with them and push your voice to be heard. Work with your government. Some of the governments are very friendly. You need to reach your voice to the government. That's how we should do the advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Zuhair, for sharing your insights. Is there anyone to ask maybe a last question or something? Or we good to end here? All right. I think that's come to the end of our session today. Again, I want to thank and express my gratitude to all of our speakers, and also all of the participants that joined with us online and on site. So thank you so much.
Okay, day one has come to an end successfully, and we've actually completed on time. We're just 2 minutes behind, which is wonderfully great for the first day. Yeah, we've not extended. We've been on time. This has been great. Tomorrow we start back again at 9:30. Please come back. Tomorrow you're free to leave now. You can network with people who are here. Yeah. Yeah, he's doing all of that. Okay. Also, please remember when you come back tomorrow to sign your attendance sheet, because I think people have been running behind you for that. So please ensure that you take care of that. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, reach out to us. That's all. Everybody have a great evening. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.